Welcome back to Lions News Fan Report, where we bring you the latest and most exciting sports news every single day. Tonight, we're diving into a storyline that has blindsided many in Detroit. Is Levi Onwuzurike's roster spot in jeopardy? After the Lions' flurry of defensive tackle additions and the first-round drafting of Tyleik Williams, what once seemed a lock just 2 months ago may now be the most vulnerable seat in the defensive line rotation. Stick around, because the full picture reveals not just numbers on a salary cap sheet, but deeper strategic shifts that could reshape Dan Campbell's defensive identity in 2025. It all began when the Lions surprised many by bringing back Onwuzurike, on a one-year deal this March. Fresh off his best season, 45 pressures, 61% snap rate, and a top 15 PFF grade among DTs, he looked poised to anchor Detroit's interior rush. Shortly after, the front office added veteran Roy Lopez, a proven run-stuffer who had rebounded impressively in Houston last year. Then, in a draft night move straight out of a chess master's playbook, they invested the number 28 overall pick in Tyleik Williams, an Ohio State powerhouse touted as the premier three technique in the class. Suddenly, the Lions' defensive tackle cupboard was stocked not just with potential, but with proven veterans and high-ceiling rookies. Could one of them be headed for release or trade? Enter Pro Football Network's Sterling Zai, who flagged Onwuzurike as perhaps the odd man out when rosters finalize by September. On the surface, it might seem absurd to cut a player who quietly delivered a career year at age 24. After all, he played more snaps and generated more interior pressure than DJ Reader, the man some believe Detroit should actually jettison to free up bigger cap space. But the calculus isn't solely performance-based. Financially, releasing Onwuzurike after June 1st would net the team a modest $721,000 in savings against his $4.22 million cap hit, a drop in the bucket compared to the $11.7 million relief if the team cut Reader instead. Is Detroit truly eyeing the cheapest path off the books, or is there a football rationale that goes beyond mere dollars? Digging deeper, consider scheme fit. Dan Campbell and defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn have repeatedly emphasized gap control and interior toughness in a run-first scheme. Roy Lopez brings first-down grunt and stout anchor, while DJ Reader offers a rare two-gap veteran know-how. Williams, the rookie, is a penetrator whose quick-strike style meshes with Glenn's sub-package blitzes. Onwuzurike, by contrast, thrives as a one-gap attacking rusher. In a rotation that can now feature 4 viable options at 3 tech and knows coaches may prefer a balanced mix, 2 space eaters, 1 veteran two-gapper, and 1 game-changing penetrator. Could Onwuzurike fall into an overlapping role that the staff views as surplus to requirements? Equally compelling is the roster construction logic underpinning Detroit's recent moves. When you step back and examine the Lions' defensive tackle room as it stands today, you see a depth chart brimming with talent and versatility. Not only have they added Roy Lopez's stout one-gap play and two-gap discipline, but they've also invested heavily in Tyleik Williams' explosive three-technique, pass rush. Then there's DJ Reader, whose veteran savvy and championship DNA bring a stabilizing presence. Add Levi Onwuzurike into that mix and you have 4 players capable of rotating through a 3-man front. In heavy fronts, where Campbell's attack-heavy scheme often boasts 3 defensive tackles at once, this depth can be a nightmare for offensive lines. But in nickel and dime packages, where sub-packages reduce the line from 5 to 3 or even 4 defenders, each interior, snap counts against a 46-man game day roster limit. If Onwuzurike is deemed redundant behind Lopez, Reader, and Williams, the front office might decide the wins from keeping him active don't outweigh the cost in roster flexibility. Could Detroit leverage the buzz around Onwuzurike's re-signing to trade him for mid-round draft capital, freeing up a spot for a rookie edge rusher who can also contribute on special teams, rather than quietly releasing him for a bare minimum dead cap hit? Moreover, the Lions' investment in young talent suggests a longer-term view that might deprioritize Onwuzuriki's role. Tyleik Williams, as a top 30 pick, carries inherent draft capital risk. He's expected to see significant snaps from day 1. At the same time, the organization spent its mid-round capital on depth defenders who project roles behind Williams, such as third-rounder Jaden Johnson from Missouri, known for his explosive first step. With multiple non-guaranteed contracts and rookie wages controlling much of the rotation, could the Lions see Onwuzurike, a $4.2 million cap charge, as a luxury they can no longer afford once training camp evaluations conclude? That potentially paves the way for younger, cheaper options to step up. In fact, the mere possibility of Onwuzurike ending up elsewhere has sparked a media firestorm. Rival beat writers and podcasters are already speculating on what a trade package might look like. Some suggest the Lions could net a third- or fourth-round pick by packaging Onwuzurike with a mid-day 3 selection, effectively turning one roster spot into 2 future assets. Could this strategic pivot both reduce salary cap clutter and accelerate Detroit's talent infusion, aligning perfectly with Brad Holmes's vision of drafting and developing while staying opportunistic in free agency and trades? Yet, for the die-hard, lion-hearted faithful, the speculation cuts deep. Onwuzuriki's blend of violent hand usage and relentless motor made him not just a productive defender, but a cult favorite in Detroit. Every breakout day in practice, every splash play in a preseason game, endeared him to a fan base starved for interior playmakers since the days of Ndamukong. Now, with new faces arriving and a rookie commanding attention, supporters can't help but wonder, does Detroit really intend to ditch a homegrown talent just as he hit his prime? The question of loyalty looms large, especially given Coach Dan Campbell's repeated emphasis on fighting through adversity and rewarding effort. Could moving on from Onwuzurike undermine that culture message, or might it reinforce a merit-based system where no one's roster spot is safe? On the other hand, some savvy insiders argue that this brinkmanship is actually healthy for the locker room. When veteran players see the front office willing to make tough decisions, even involving recently re-signed contributors, it sends a crystal-clear message that every position must be earned anew each summer. Could this level of internal competition spark Onwuzurike to double down on his off-season training, adding mass without sacrificing quickness, or refining his hands to mirror more of a Gary Big Diesel Guyton-like finesse? If he responds by flashing with 2 quick strip sacks in August, his name could be the first engraved on the depth chart come September. Dig deeper into film study, and you'll see why the staff might gamble on his future. While his 2024 campaign was statistically solid, 45 pressures, 2.0 sacks, and top 15 PFF grade among defensive tackles, film sessions reveal occasional lane discipline issues in gap exchanges and counter-move vulnerabilities against veteran guards. Comparison metrics show Roy Lopez graded out higher at run defense win rate, and DJ Reader allowed fewer quarterback completions when aligned as a 2-gapper. Is it possible that coaches view Onwuzuriki's raw explosiveness as a luxury tool, best reserved for specific blitz packages, rather than as a day-one starter, making him the odd man out in early-down defensive sets? So here we stand, a roster rich in interior talent, yet razor-thin in flexibility. Dan Campbell must eventually settle on a rotation that balances veteran savvy, rookie potential, and financial prudence. Could the Lions ultimately decide that Onwuzuriki's best fit is on another team, unlocking a trade that seeds future drafts rather than clinging to a crowded DT room? Or will he rise to the occasion, seize his spot, and prove that the decision to re-sign him in March was more prophetic than precarious? But what do you think about all of this? Should Detroit stay committed to Onwuzuriki's development and keep him, the entire DT quartet, intact, or is trading him for draft capital the smarter long-term play? I can't wait to read your thoughts in the comments below. Roar on, Lions fans!